Uh, so, hey folks, uh, today we are here to talk about a guide on a winning project of how you can make a project win a hackathon and create project at ease. So, we are students from Vellore Institute of Technology, Vellore. I myself have Hemant Krishna, and I have two other of my friends with me, Arush and Harsh. So, So we are here. These are handles. You can connect with us at any time. So what is this whole session about? The whole session about is a cheat sheet to a hackathon. You guys will be participating at Sparkathon hackathon right now, and so this is just a guide, a booster that will help you and give some tips and tricks of how to win a hackathon. So without wasting any time, let's start hacking the hackathon. So there are four pillars of a hack. So let us explore what are those four pillars of a hack and why those four pillars are pretty much important. And these four pillars will basically help you boost your project, your hackathon project that you're creating, and it will supercharge it. And if you are able to balance these four pillars at any hackathon, it significantly boosts your percentage of it turning out to be an amazing project, and it could also have a higher chance of winning the prize. So let us check it out. As interesting as it sounds, let us check out what are these four pillars of a hack. The first pillar, idea. Of course, in any hackathon, your idea is very important. So, what do you mean by idea? Like, if you go for a hackathon, hackathon is basically a, a event, a place where people come together, they build something, they hack a solution for a problem. That's what all hackathon is about. And not to mention the other perks of networking. And of course, if it were online, there would be some food, but it's online, so you're connected. So the idea is the first most pillar where you ideate of what problem you're trying to solve. How is your idea going to solve that problem, and what are the perks? So is there any existing solution to the problem you're trying to solve? If so, how is your idea better? So that is basically what the ideation phase is. So it is one of the foremost foundation of your project. So I'm just gonna again gonna talk like big words to sound smart like foundation and all those. But to be honest, it all boils down to how simple, how understanding, and how effective your idea is to solve that problem. How effective your solution is. The most simple and effective solution is always a banger. It wins. So, deciding a timeline for your project is very important. Usually, there are various hackathons of various time durations. Some hackathons are 24 hours, some are 36 hours, some are 48 hours. So, you need to be capable enough to decide the proper timeline of your project. Yes, hackathons allow you to ideate a idea before the hackathon starts. But you should never start working or implementing that idea until the hack time starts. So that is very important. So you have to decide a timeline of how to proceed. Maybe the hackathon requires a video submission or a pitching round, which you'll come to later, which we'll talk about later. So you have to decide a timeline like by this time I have to be finished by this. So if you create a proper chart, this helps you to track progress of how your hack is going. And like even if you're not able to complete achieve that timeline, it kind of gives you a sense of satisfaction, and it shows where you currently are in a hack. So it gets difficult managing all during a hack. Let's say if it's especially a 24-hour hack, that's literally one day and you have a lot to manage and do. So that is going to be very tedious. So time management and timeline management is something very, very important. Next, we have the second pillar, which I'll let Harsh talk about.
Thank you, Hemant. So let us start with the new topic, that is a design. That is second layer of our hackathon. Can you go to the next slide, Hemant? All right. So before we start into like looking at these terms like research and define problems, rapid wireframing and all, these sounds a bit complicated to hear at the first go. So in a hackathon, you won't submit your idea or design as it is. As Heman mentioned, idea is one of the most crucial phases of hackathon itself. Now, to make that idea into a proper vision, so here where design comes in. So designer gives a basic vision, sorry, basic vision to the idea and problem we have defined here. Now, the very first phase of this is what problem we are trying to define here. So a designer work is to like go through the stuff without first you set a basic idea here. Now you have to define some problems basic. So basically if you have a proper problem set up here, now you can work along solving them each one by one feature. So as there's like a very constraint of time, like you have like suppose it's a 36 hour hackathon suppose. Now here you won't go like go on in full research, reading about each and every feature, what this product is about and stuff, and making wireframing and UI in one go in a one hackathon itself. This itself sounds so overwhelming at the first step. Now here, this concept of rapid wireframing comes in here. Now after the problem we have set up, we need to work on the wireframing itself. So have a basic mental model in your mind, draw some sketches, give it maximum 1 or 2 hours. That is the most optimum time for my side because even developer has to work on afterwards. So make your rapid wireframing stuff, like make some basic sketches on pen and paper. Go from low fidelity wireframing, that is a pen and paper, to directly to a basic a high fidelity model, that is your UI itself. Now basically designer here focus more on sometimes on the presentation part and other features that are not kind of important to the basic idea that we have set up here. Now designer has to focus on basic main feature, that is a functionality. Suppose we have a functionality A here. Now if a designer is working mainly on the other feature like making a onboarding screens or some other feature that are away from the main functionality, at the end of the day the developer will only suffer because we won't have a proper model set up and it will definitely delay your design process at the end. Then the next part is presentation and branding. That's my favorite part here because you won't submit a project as it is. So suppose if you have a project, you don't want people or judges to see it like as a very rough wireframed model. You want people to see it because everyone loves a finished and final product basically at the end of the day basically. So here presentation branding and mockup comes in here, and we will talk about it more later in the phase part. So I will just give it. Can you go to the next slide here, Arush? All right. I think Arush can take up from here.
Yeah, okay. So now you have the idea, you have the design. Now you need to implement the idea. So implementation is the third pillar you need to have. So for implementation, you can do various things. You can implement hackathon ideas with an app, with a website, with AR, VR, with anything at all that exists in the world. So Heman, next slide, please. So implementation is done. After that, what you go on is the final part of the presentation, that is the pitch. So the pitch consists of the maximum part of the hackathon and what convinces the judges. So you when you pitch, you should make sure that you go on that you explain your problem statement very well, and the judge should not ask you what your problem statement is after you've pitched. This has happened with so many hackers everywhere. Also, when you choose your idea is your problem statement basically. You should relate all of your prototype to your problem statement. Everything should be based on that. Also, when you're making your prototype, you should not deviate from your problem statement. It happens with many of us, like we go on building the idea, we build it, and then afterwards we get more features to add to it, but then it gets too much that we cannot complete any of those features. So next slide, please. So your project, so you have too many features in your project. So now you cannot complete all of those features in 24 hours or 48 hours or even 1 week if it's a hack. So your presentation should complement to your project, and the judge should know whatever you show them, not whatever your project is. So it all depends on how you present your project. That is why pitching is a very important part. So your pitching should actually include a part about your problem statement, that is 3 minutes of, like we're assuming a pitch to be 7 minutes. That is generally how hacks work. So half of your pitch should be around your problem statement, why you chose the problem statement, how are you hacking the problem here. Then you should explain about your product, of what your product is, how you build that product, and the most important thing about your product is its USP. USP is a unique selling point. So the USP is your crux of your product. You should be able to explain your product, how it's unique in one line. Also, many hacks need a business model and the future work. So they don't only see what you've built in the 48 hours, they see your future work. They see what you plan to make out of this project. All of it is based on your idea. And some hacks that are business based. Generally, university hacks look into this. So the hacks that are business based need you to have a business model for them. Okay, Harsh, you can continue from here.
All right, Arish, thank you. So I will just talk about marketing, advertising, designing, and branding. This seems like a lot of words here. So I'll just go one by one regarding each. So talking about the marketing here. Now you should know how to pitch your event, how to market your project basically to your judge and the audience that are watching it, right? That's the first and foremost step that we know. Now after that, we know designing is the other very important aspects that that we all have to focus on in a hack. So everyone loves the finish and very aesthetic product, right? So at the end of the day, if you have a like very good looking product, even with a lot of functionality involved in it, it's a plus 1 point to it. And next, talking about the branding part here. Now, branding is one of the most important aspects when we talk about it in a hackathon. The way you brand your product, the way your judge or the audience will see it, right? So try to brand a product in that way itself. And next thing is advertising, as we all know. So the more you advertise, or the more you advertise the product to the greater audience you reach here. So can you go to the next slide, Arush? Here, I think Hemant can take it from here. Yeah.
So, as we just saw, the four pillars which I talked about, the first pillar is idea, the second pillar is design, the third pillar is the implementation, and the fourth pillar is pitch. We just saw a quick brief of what all these pillars, how relevant they are, and what significant roles they play. So these are some brownie points and some final touch points, a checklist basically that you have to make sure before you submit your project. So in online hackathons that are being conducted, always include all the relevant URLs and the images in your project submission. For example, it might be a GitHub repository where your source code is present. It could be a Figma or an Adobe XD file or any other design file on which you prototype your designs. It could be any website that you made, a website link that you made, a link to download the EPK if you made an app, right? And also include all the relevant images that your project uses, maybe describing of what is the tech stack, or if you haven't used any tech stack properly, what did you make? What the tools did you use to make that project? Right. And so these are some tips and tricks of how to score tiny brownie points that can help you to stand out than other projects. So first things first, interact with the community. Right. Nowadays, lots of hackathons are being connected online, and there are Discord servers or Slack communities that are created with various fun channels and events. So if it were an offline hackathon, of course, networking is one of the biggest perks. But due to the pandemic situation and us sitting as our homes, we realized that not many people are still taking advantage of that networking. So interact with the community. Like you might be busy in the implementation phase or the design phase, but it's very good to go and interact with others, network with others. Maybe someone is working on a very cool project, or maybe it can inspire you to get a new idea for your next project. All right, so interaction with the community is a very good point because it makes you stand out. Others are aware of who you are, and it also helps you in the longer run. So, like, you should not force a hack on yourself, right? Like, it should hackathons are basically a place where you have fun. So do not forget that. Never forget that. Like, winning is the goal, yes, but whenever you participate in a hackathon, you always take a learning home, which is far far more important and precious than winning the hackathon. So never force yourself to hackathons. Uh, you have to love the hackathon to be a part of it, right? And that's how you also get to interact with the community. So, what are some efficient ways? Let's talk about some efficient ways of improving your app. We'll talk about the four pillars that we believe, or we say that if you can balance out these four pillars, you might improve your efficiency and winning rate. So let's see some efficient ways of improving your app. Maybe you're working on a project right now for Sparkathon. What you can do to improve it right now, right? So again, let's get started with design phase, right? Because ideation is something that you do by your own. So we'll come about at the end of this session, or after a few minutes, we'll talk about one of the projects that we built and how was our ideation process regarding that. Right. For now, let's start off with design. I think Harsh, I'll hand it over to you.
Sure, Hemant. Can you go to the next slide? Cool. I think you all of you might be like heard of the software or have used the software ever in your life. Maybe Photoshop, Figma, Adobe XD, Illustrator. So these are all design tools for UI UX designing, graphic designing stuff. So Hemant, can you go to the next slide? Cool. Now talking about the hackathon itself. Now, as we know, like there's a time constraint, and we're limited to a particular uh, project and time constraint that is like maybe 36-hour or 48-hour hackathon itself. Now, here doing everything from scratch is a bit hard on a developer and the designer too itself, right? So, how to ease this process here? Rather than starting everything from scratch, why not let's use some of the pre-built libraries or some plugins and tools that make our process easier itself. Now, as you can see on the screen, it's a tool called Anima here. If you guys have ever heard of this Anima tool, and also we know Sparkathon also supports no code theme also here. Now this is a a, a, a plus 1 point for all of you here. So Anima is a tool where you can convert a design directly from a Figma to a code, which is HTML, CSS, and static web pages. So there's one advantage here. Now, you might want to have a landing page for your project itself to show to your judges and put it in your pitch itself, right? So rather than making the whole web page like coding and everything from scratch here, why not use Anima here itself, which converts your whole coded library, your whole design from Figma or XD to direct HTML CSS code here itself, and you can also play around with various features in it. So that's what. And can go to next slide here, Hemant. All right, now let's talk about UI kits and templates. Now, generally, what designers do in hackathons is they start designing everything from scratch itself, and it takes like a lot of hours to build only one or like a few screens itself. So rather than deciding a design language and having a particular theme in mind, why not use some of the UI kits and templates where you can use those elements like forms and stuff to make your work easier itself. So rather than constructing the whole thing from scratch, it might be like too hectic for you and for developer too. Just use some UI kits that can make your process easier. Now also there's one more thing here. Now here we talk about templates. So now here developer can also be benefited from this side here. So there are libraries like UI design kits, and as we talk about there are material design libraries here. So you can directly use some of the components from those libraries that are already developed into your code itself. So it makes the whole process easier itself, and there's a better communication between you and the designer too. So yeah, yeah, Arush, you can take up from here itself.
Okay, so you now again have the designs, and so making the backend from scratch is like a very, very big task. So you have to configure the database, you have to configure your backend, you have to make all the routes, everything. So what you can do is you can make your own customized templates. GitHub has a template repo feature. You can make your own customized templates for all the hacks you go to. So generally, what you can do is you can have everything initialized. You can have some like routes that are always there, like login, sign up, or authentication already made in the template repo that you can use. Or what you can use is Firebase. Firebase is a very quick backend solution for hackathons and for normal projects as well. Firebase provides you a database. It also provides you sockets connection. It also provides an ML kit. So you can use Firebase to quick start your backend, basically. Hemant, next slide. If you're doing app, so making native apps in Kotlin or Swift UI is a bigger task. Why not try Flutter or React Native? They give you an edge over cross-platform development as well. Like if you write an app in Kotlin or Java, it'll only work on Android. If you write it in Swift, it'll only work on iOS. Flutter and React Native give you the best of both the worlds, and it is quicker to make as well. And for front end, again, you can use React or Vue if it's a bigger project. If it's a smaller project, or maybe an ML based project or something like that, which is minimal front end, you can go with vanilla HTML, CSS, JS. But for bigger product based projects, you should go with React or Vue. Also, making some components can be a huge task. Like if you sit down making breadcrumbs for your front end, it'll take you 40 hours to make that breadcrumb. So use libraries like Material UI, Anti, Bootstrap to like quick start your CSS basically, so that you can do everything fast. Then what you can do is you can use, so imagine you have a very big application and you know that you don't have time to make everything in the backend as well. So what you can do is you can make a dummy backend kind of a thing in a JSON format and store it in your HTML, so you can add dummy data to that without using a DB to fake some things on the front end. So this will give you a quick start on how the things will show, and it can help in the presentation time as well. It would not look static.
And adding
Then
on to it, let's say if both front-end developers and back-end developers want to work parallelly, so the back-end developer can provide such JSON templates to the front-end developer, where the front-end developer knows what data to expect, whereas the back-end developer is developing it. So at the end, all the integration is put together like Lego pieces, which sits perfect. Continuing.
yeah, so it is with parallelization of your front end back end work together. So you don't have to wait for the back end person to make those routes, and you just sit idle while you like browse around and stuff. So what else you can do is, as Harsh said, you can use libraries. You can use Wix if it's a very small front end, and this hackathon Sparkathon also promotes no code. So Wix, Webflow, um, Wix, Webflow, WordPress, you can use all of those. Then you have Anima, as Harsh said. So Anima can be used to quickly export landing pages for your project. So imagine you've made your app and all, but then eh, think of that you can make a landing page of your presentation in 10 seconds. That is what power Anima has. It will boost your project 10 times in your presentation. I guess
So
Hemant can continue from here.
yeah, thank you, Arif. So as we saw, those were some efficient ways of winning a hackathon. So again, code, hack, win, repeat, because everything does not come in day one. Practice is the key. All right. So keep participate, keep coding, keep improving your skill set. Keep participating in these hackathons. All right. So whenever you participate in hackathon, you definitely get to learn something new or the other. Maybe you learn to code. If you do not know coding, maybe you learn to start writing basic code. Maybe you explore a new domain like AR/VR, which you have never touched. Maybe you touched blockchain. Maybe you tried reading up their documentation. saw tutorials, saw videos. So in that 24, 36, 48 hours, you push your limits and you learn something new. And if you could do that in 48 hours, which is at 2 days, imagine if this push you give it like every day, what all you could achieve, right? So the cycle continues, and we promote this cycle. So there are many solutions that were born out of a hackathon. Very famous examples are Twitter, and there are many other fun, massively used software tools that are also born out of hackathon. Not tools, but solutions that aim to like solve daily issues. Correct. So sometimes, if like the judge panel is from a startup venture or a funding venturing company. And if they really like your project, they may later get in touch with you, and you can bring your hackathon project to a real life. Like you can maybe start a startup, you can solve the solutions for real. So hackathon is where the starting phase is you literally have a problem, and to maintain this, to improve yourself, the cycle is very important. And before, like, why are we here? Why are we talking about all this? Who are we? So we just gave a quick intro at the start, but we are again students from Sophomore, and we participate in a lot of hackathons. And one of our projects, Green Cred Us, recently took part in KU Hackfest, which was conducted by a university at Nepal and also sponsored by Major League Hacking, and it won the best blockchain prize of using Tezos, which again is a blockchain network. So we'll just quickly show you, like we just talked of what are the efficient ways, the four pillars, the efficient ways to boost your hackathon. We'll just talk about how we used all those things that we talked about for previous 20, 27 minutes, how we put it and how we built this project and how we successfully won the project. So before doing that, let's have a very, very quick recap. All right. So to do that, let's go back. And again, we talked about the four pillars of the hack. The first pillar is the ideation. The second pillar is the design. The third pillar is an implementation. And your fourth pillar is pitch. The more you balance out these four pillars, the higher the quality of your project increases and the higher rate of winning you have. It's not always about winning, but it's about creating amazing solutions. Correct. And then we talked about how you can earn some brownie points and why your presentation is very important. So we talked about improving, we talked about no code theme, like how if you, even if you do not know coding, you can generate and boost and basically minimize your work and create more efficient stuff in those 24, 36, 48 hours. And Arush talked about how if you're using backend things, Firebase or templates to creating an app, you can maybe make use of Flutter and React, which is fairly easier to create the app in such a short span of time. And if it's front end, Arush has suggested stuff. So let's get into our project. So I'll quickly go here, and you can check out our project at www.green-cred.us. Us. So this is where we had created a landing page, and this landing page was created using Anima. So before doing this, you can also visit our design at design.green-thread.us. So if you do this, this will take to our Behance portfolio, where we had documented everything of how we ideated about this project, what are the problems we are solving, how is the solution, and what all did we implement. So I'll let Harsh take over and explain how we ideated and what are the problems that this project solved and how we were able to win that hackathon.
All right. Thank you, Hemant. So I will take up from here. So as Hemant explained, like how a project won like these prizes and stuff. So let us talk about our approach and ideation that we reached till end here. So introducing our project, it was Green Credus. So Green Credus is a basic PW app which has a blockchain integration in itself. and which helps in reduction of carbons using using some green credits that we call as carbon credits basically. So moving on to it now, starting on with the ideation part here. Now, initially, we ideated it a lot before the hackathon itself because we had to get some basic idea, a solid idea to start off with the when hackathon starts off. So we ideated a lot and came across this carbon credit problem here. There was no perfect solution for the carbon credits and its proper management here. So as we now know here that there's a lot of problem going on due to carbon emission, and people are wasting carbons like nothing else. I mean, there's no limit to it. People can spend as much as they want, and so this leads to a lot of carbon emission in the environment, and ultimately affects our own Earth itself. Now, after defining all our problems here, we we know that we are in a big trouble here. Now we need to get some solutions out of this. So, Hemant can go down. Yeah. So now now before we start off a project here, after defining all the problems and what all needs to be fixed here, we need to have a basic USP, or basic, you can call it a basic aim we need to have to start our project itself. So we aim here at to reduce the carbon emission with blockchain technology. These two words were the main factor in the whole project here. So as we go, can you scroll down? Yeah. So just to introduce our team, uh, my name is Harsh Singhal. So I worked on the UI UX designing part of it, that is product designing part. Hemant Krishna worked in the blockchain development and the backend part of it, and Arush Bhatt worked on the front end development part and a PW app, that is. So we had this challenging time constraint of 40 hours that happened from 19th February 21st. So in those 24 in those 48 hours, so in those 40 hours we were like kind of like it was a big challenge for us to come up with the whole product branding and as well as having a proper function implemented in it. So this was a basic color palette that we came up with initially to have a basic vision of what we want the judges and the users to feel like. And then as we talk about the rapid wireframing stuff, so it started all from here itself. We started with some basic sketches here, having a basic mental model, making a user flow, what end goal our was. So after having a basic, very rough sketches and a mental model in mind, we went into more of design stuff, that is defining a grid to make it easier for a developer to make in the front end itself. And ultimately, we had this was the most important part, that is the flow itself for us. So can you scroll down? Yeah. So now let us now we see problems and the aim we came up with. Now we need a proper solution to our problems here. Now to talk about solutions here, Arushpat can take it from here itself.
Yeah, so you see the problem. The problem is, like, I have money. I can go to a petrol pump, buy 10 liters of buy 1,000 liters of petrol, go to a random ground and burn it if the ground is mine, obviously. I can burn it. That is completely legal to do. But it is harmful for the environment. So we thought, like money, we should make something that controls carbon emission in the world. So for that, green creds are basically a cryptocurrency that you have to pay in addition to money to buy everything and anything that emits carbon. So this is your petrol, your air flights, your meat shops, anything and everything that has carbon in it. So how the flow of it works is you install a PWA. PWA is a progressive web app. Consider it like a normal app only. So you install the app, then you go to a shop where you want to buy a product. Imagine a petrol pump. I go to a petrol pump. All the users of the app will get some certain amount of cryptocurrency, that is green credits, from the government based on how they're living. So there's a level, like for children it will be less, for people in the middle ages it will be more, for people in the old ages it will be more. So then what you do is, with cash you need to pay with this cryptocurrency. All of this is fully transparent as it is on a blockchain. and this cryptocurrency would help save the environment, as you'll have to budget your cryptocurrency intake with your money intake. So like people manage money to go on trips, people will have to manage this cryptocurrency, that is green credits, to go on trips. It is not like if I have money I can go, I can do whatever the fuck I want and go anywhere anytime. So how we did it was, we made some prototypes first. So this works like a normal Google Pay kind of a workflow, where you scan a QR code, you get the other person's ID, the three hearts of the product. So the hearts of the product is the green coins, that is green credits, the blockchain currency, which we built on the Tezos network, and a QR code scanner for easy transactions. Then you have a smooth workflow, a QR code thing. Hemant, could you scroll down? A QR code scanner
So I
workflow.
will just
See, as you can
quickly
select how much petrol you.
yes, so
Yeah,
I'll just
Hemant, go on.
quickly get to the workflow. Like as Arush mentioned, it has like a GPA kind of interface. So that is where our inspiration came from. And we have like a tap to pay button, we scan a QR code, and you choose a commodity, and the credits will be detected. Yes, Arush, you can just give again the example in this case, how green credits would prevent you to burn
Yeah.
those 1,000 liters of petrol in the ground.
Okay, so like it shows how many credits you have left and how many credits you've spent. So all the credits you have left is what you can pay with what you have in your wallet. Then you go to some petrol shop, you go to a petrol pump, you scan your code, then you select what commodity you're buying and how much you're buying with it. And it limits you to buy till a certain amount. You have the allowance. That allowance is your budget for this. So that's how green credits works. Hemant, would you like to explain the other features of it?
Sure, Arush. So we have like blocks. Again, this was the main selling point of green credits. So we have a limited budget, a limited amount that is governed by the government, and we also have an index, something like a index inspired by PPP, which is a purchase power parity that is very famously used in the world to compare two different currencies. So we also got inspired by this and created our own index from which we allow the government to provide. It's a hypothetical situation. Like even if this is implemented worldwide, the government could provide each citizen with a certain amount of credits every month. And once this credits run off, like you're out of those credits, you won't be able to consume any more commodity that helps or that promotes carbon emission. So, as in this case, just to make clear, even if Arush had money, had a ton of money, and let's say he had only 10 carbon credits, and per liter of petrol costs about a single carbon credit. So, the max amount of petrol he could buy is only 10 liters. So, if he wants to buy more after that, he has to wait for the next month for the for the currency to refill in his wallet, and accordingly he could spend. So he has to decide and he has to create his own budget of what to spend, how to spend, and where to spend. So this makes the user aware of how much carbon they are emitting, and this also provides the government who's using this technology an estimate of how much total carbon will be emitted from that place or that area uh, in in that year, in that time frame, because they will be providing only that much amount, they'll be distributing only that much amount of green credit to its citizens. So only that much amount of commodity can be consumed that emits this carbon. So you have in control, you have an upper bound, a limit, a statistic analysis of how much carbon that will be emitting. In this way, we can learn to control. We can see which areas emitting more, and we can kind of control it. And this is how green credits kind of helps the environment and solves the issue. Coming on to the other features, we again wanted to make it a very product oriented app. So we have like included blocks about saving helping save environment. We have certain kinds of offers, like this was towards the business model. Someone wants to like advertise the products, something like what you can see in the e-commerce website, like any specific offers that can come around, and your transaction history basically, where you transacted, what did you transact, And we again love dark mode. Everyone does love dark mode. So we have dark mode. We basically focused on having this cool black green concept because it kind of provides a good interface to look at. We used PWA because it is easier to install in an app. Basically, what a progressive web app means, you do not separately require it to install it from Play Store or App Store. Instead, if you could visit a website, it will prompt you to install and it sit at the home screen of your device automatically. So again, how did we build this? Okay, we talked about the idea. Okay, first pillar done. We talked about the designs. Harsh showed you what are the low fee and the high fidelity frames, and how we decided the user flow. Second pillar, design done. Third pillar comes to the implementation. How did we implement this? So again, as mentioned, n number of times, we built a progressive web app, which Arush had built, and we used the power of blockchain to make this currency transaction very transparent, so that there is no black currency or black market involved in misusing this currency. Right. So we leveraged the power of Tezos network. Tezos is a blockchain network, and it provides and it's also a cryptocurrency for a fun fact. And it provides various advantages, various technical advantages, and it's pretty easier to implement. So this was our first time exploring blockchain. As I told you, Hackathon always helps you to push your limits. We were no we, None of us had any clue about blockchain. So in those 48 hours or 40 hours, we had to sit, we had to learn, we had to read through the documentation. We saw videos how this could be done because we were very fixated on implementing this idea. So that is how we achieved. We used blockchain Tezos network and the QR code scanning. Yes. So the QR code scanning is your generic scan. That is what nowadays you see everywhere. Even because of the pandemic, every shop or uh, your Kiso supports QR scanning. So that is about it. Those are the features of what we developed. Arush, Harsh, if you would like to add on more features, please feel free.
Yeah, just to add on to it, we also try to optimize our app. So as we know that our app was focused on reducing carbon emission itself, and we thought like even our phone screens and our phone also emits a lot of carbon when using it. So we try to keep our app as light as we can. We try to use SVGs for because they consume less memory in the phone itself because it's a PWA as at the end of the day. And also we try to use dark mode here. So dark mode, as Hemant also explained, is very user friendly too, and also helps in reducing carbon emission. Now how it helps for the user. So basically we research about how a phone screen or how a light screen can affect user and even the general environment around them also. So we try to optimize our app as much as possible. And also regarding the sending the data to the cloud itself. So the communication between the cloud and the data, that is also we have tried to keep it as light as we can to minimize the load on the servers and reduce less carbon emission. So yeah, that's from my side. Yeah, Hemant, you can continue from your.
So we'll just take a look at some chats. I think we have some interesting questions before we go on to the further presentation. So, okay, Kushal asks, how did you form the algorithm to decide how much carbon credits currency to give to a specific person based on their spending behavior? So, Kushal, to answer that, I mentioned that we were very much inspired by a concept known as PPP, which is purchase power parity. It's actually used in real life to decide how much cost of living. Like for example, let's say I earn around 2 lakhs per month and I live a city in India like Delhi. Okay, so would that same amount be sufficient if I go live in a separate location, let's say California? Would that amount suffice? So there are various indexes or various factors that come into play: cost of living, the commodity prices, your GDP of the country, and there is an index that is formed. Right. So let's say if I'm earning 2 lakhs over here, I would have at Delhi, I would have to earn a minimum of 5 lakhs or 6 lakhs to live the same lifestyle at California. So we researched about that index and we formulated our own index, which is the GCI, the Green Credit Index. So what it basically does is it takes a history pattern of a specific place, that maybe let's say a place is an industrial place, maybe it's an industrial zone, it has a lot of factories. Of course, there'll be a lot of carbon emission. So in those places, we try to minimize the carbon threat that will be provided to the users or to the citizens of that place, right? And let's say if there are they are in a very in a city where there's very less carbon emissions, so they get more freedom to live or to spend the carbon. So overall, it's a more generalized term because we cannot generalize that the government will be giving out 20 credits no matter the geographic location that you live in, because that defeats the purpose, the whole purpose of carbon credits. So to answer Shivanshu Singh, for the front end, we had used React framework. The whole PWA app was built on React, and for the backend, as such to say, the whole data process that happened that was built on TypeScript, and the blockchain part, we call it D app, right? The app that lives within the blockchain. So that was integrated in the front end itself, because the whole point of this was to be decentralized, right? So we didn't want to centralize anything. So only your login data and your maybe your profile and transaction history requires a backend framework, and which was written using Node.js TypeScript, and we used a Postgres based database. Right. So moving on further to the presentation. Yeah, so we had designed around 40 screens, and of course, it was not humanly possible to implement each of the screen during the hack. So we focused on building more core features. For example, the feature where the payment is possible. So we focused at around we were able to build, I think, around 15 to 20 screens. Arush, please correct me if I'm wrong. We were able to achieve around 15 to 20 screens, and but we still have the workflow in mind of this is how the product should look, right? So
And just
coming
to
on to
add
the
to
tech
that,
stack.
sorry, Hemant, to cut you off here.
Yes,
Just to add to
sure.
that, regarding these screens, so just advice from my side. So whenever you go to a hackathon and you design some of your screens there itself, now you also have a mental model in mind how you want. So whenever you go to next hackathon, so you can use your pre-built template, your own stuff from for your next hackathon itself. So it will also save a lot of time and for your next hackathon. And yeah, these 40 plus screens. So first focus on the main functionality. And during the presentation, as you can see here itself, I've tried to put the screens that are that whose functionality are the main here, like the QR code scanner, the home screen that was main, and the transaction screen. So try to have a variation of all the screens up here and make your presentation much more like attractive to the user itself. So yeah, here you can continue. Yeah.
Yes. So these are the tech stack that we basically used. We used Figma for all this prototyping and designing. We used React to both build our PWA app. We used the Tezos blockchain, as mentioned earlier, and of course, not to mention GitHub for collaboration, because we all are sitting at remote places. And we wrote a definition of a smart contract and smart PY. It's a fun Python-based way of writing your smart contracts. And for authentication services and storage, we use Firebase. So these are some third-party tools that we have made use of, and we are grateful to these tools. And of course, GoDaddy domain, the green-cred.us is provided by GoDaddy domain, and this was provided to us as a free domain service as part of the hackathon. So what is the future? Again, so we covered everything, and what is the future for green credits? So to summarize this, we can submit, we can do a reverse thing where you spend currency if you're using a commodity that expends carbon, but if you're recycling, you might get some of green credits as a refund. All right. So maybe you can submit any plastic or any carbon producing material into recycle stations. So if you do that, maybe you can gain more green credits that you can utilize for other purposes. So this invokes a very healthy practice, sustainability, and helps growth of the environment. And subsequent carbon credits deposited directly in your account. So that was our future plan. So recapping, we completed our idea, we completed our design, we completed our implementation, and the fourth part, pitch. So where's the pitch? That is what we have been doing for past 20 minutes. We have been pitching our idea to you. We have been walking through the idea to you. So this is what a pitch is. So the whole page, again this page, www.green-cred.us, uh, this was again designed on Figma, and this was generated by Anima, because we had only 40 hours of time and we had a lot of work to do. Hence, Anima was very useful in this case. It helped us to like create this landing page, which we could show to anyone and virtually pitch it to anyone. So this was a unique way of us brainstorming and figuring out a way. So you could also maybe implement something very simple, right?
And
And
one more thing here.
sure, Harsh.
The anima page that was made like within 2 hours itself. The whole code exported, and I mean the whole layout of the page. So using anima, it will like just optimize all the images itself into one. And one more thing anima provides is it optimizes a page well enough to be to load in just seconds itself. I mean 1 second or less than that even. So anima has a like lot of great power. So do use that whenever you get time for the next hackathon or for Sparkathon itself.
Yes. So we had one final more future feature which is very ambitious, and we were really excited to integrate, but we had it for future plans because the time constraints. Prediction of how much green credits will you be spending the next months on basis of your spending patterns, behavioral patterns. Let's say I use this green thread system for like around 2 months or 3 months. So it would analyze and it predict. It might form a good budget. Let's say after 6 months I have to travel, right? So maybe I can put it into the app and it will tell me how to spend less and how to spend more so that I have enough green credits so that I can travel after 6 months. So that is where our prediction thing stands. So we just put it as a future aspect because we were unable to integrate as this itself requires a whole lot of work. So maybe we'll start working on it and maybe integrating it into a real product. So that was about it. This was our presentation. This was our project that won the prize at KU Hackers. And if you again like this project, you can go to our design.green-cred.us, and it's up on BHats. You can give it a like, and you can also check out our landing page. And so that's about it for from our side. Arush, Harsh, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. So if you guys have any question regarding anything, just feel free to ask here itself. Um,
And
yeah.
additionally, we'll also be mentors of Sparkathon. So we'll be available on the Discord server. You can tag any one of us. Our names are up there. So if you have any idea or you want to discuss proofread or even help out in technical stuff, you can anytime tag us and we'll be there. Right. And if you also want to connect with us later, we have left our socials on the screen right now, so that you can connect with us anytime later on. So uh, that's about it. And now maybe if you have some questions or if you'd like to ask us any questions, feel free to do so. We can have a quick AMA.
Or you guys can like ask any question regarding any of the hackathon stuff anytime on Discord itself by tagging us. That's also fine.
And additionally, as we said, we started off, we are students from Weller Institute of Technology, Weller. And we are also part of this cool tech-based club named IEEE. It's part of, we call it IEEE, and we are available. We probably be our social handles. Arush, Harsh, if you could do that. So we sometimes bi-weekly conduct this initiative named as Tech Look, where we teach, where it's like basically students teaching students about various technologies and various implementations of how such things can happen. So recently we held a session, something very similar, how you can like boost your hackathons with way much more tips, and we sometimes also provide resources. So you can check us out later, and maybe you can also sign up for those sessions that we might conduct in future. So if you are interested on to learning more tech, you can definitely check us out. Fennel asks, how different is
Uh,
using Tezos from native Ethereum? Yes, Fennel. So native Ethereum has its various advantages. Again, blockchain as a cryptocurrency on blockchain was introduced by none other than Bitcoin, but Bitcoin had some technical difficulties. So Ethereum aimed to solve those technical difficulties by improving a faster encoding mechanism and a hashing mechanism, and even the way it stores information is kind of faster. So that is how native Ethereum works. Tezos is a partial fork of Ethereum. It is not a fully forked Ethereum, but it is a fork of Ethereum. On the under the hood, it uses the same technology of what Ethereum uses, but the SDK or the core plugins that are built on top of it helps of a more smoother and faster deployment of the block chains that are available on the nodes. Uh,
Also, I think there's a one more question here from Shivanshu Singh. So he asked, what templates would you recommend for designing here? All right. To answer this question, so here, first of all, if you want to work on the icons itself, that's one of the major, like, where developer and designer like are have to communicate here. So work on material icons itself. That's my suggestion here, because even they have their links up there, and even developer, when they have to use those material icons, they can anytime put those stuff in the code itself and can have the icons there. And also, to answer like what templates will I recommend for this designing stuff. So if you use Figma or XD or any design tool here, so whenever we search on Google, or even you can search on Figma community itself. If we search for UI kits, simple on Figma community, there's an option for that. Even on Google, you can get a list of UI kits, and you can duplicate or play around with those elements in your own draft itself. So it will duplicate a file in your own system, and you can just copy paste those components or whatever it provides you from there itself. And so there are like a lot of libraries. I can also share some of the links here in the chat section soon too.
Okay, Shivanshu also asked, is it okay to completely skip the backend part if low on time? So, Shivanshu, you can skip all the part that is not your main product. So, like for example, your product is based on payments. So you don't have to make your profile settings and all of that backend. So make the crux of your product, then go to the additional features if you're low on time. I hope that answers your question.
All right,
Also, there
there's one
I
one
more
think
more
question
question.
here. Yeah,
Tushar
yeah, Hima.
asks,
Yeah,
how hard was it to integrate the blockchain part in your project? So yes, Kushal. So as we said before, none of us had any clue about blockchain. So we did have a clue about a theoretical aspect of how blockchain technology works, but he had never implemented it in a project in real life. So we sought Tezos, and again, as I said, interaction to the community is a key. I put up doubts, I put up questions, and I was answered. Then I read up documentation. Documentation is one of the best ways to get started with, because they generally have tutorials of how their technology works. So I made utilized of the Tezos SDK, which stands for Software Development Kit. So I use those technologies, and I try to integrate within the React app. Apparently, they also had a library that was published in the npm, so I could npm install it and I could use it. So their documentation helped me a lot. Although they were pretty, I had to dig up a lot of information and do a proper research. It wasn't very hard once you get a hang of it, of how the whole technology works and how Tezos has approached their networking. Once you get to learn that, it becomes very easy. Once you understand the concept, you familiarize yourself with it. It is pretty much easy to integrate it into our app. So we were definitely able to integrate within our app within 40 hours, and we were able to demonstrate proof of concept with each other. Hence, I wouldn't say it's a very hard job. So if I could do this in 40 hours, I can definitely do better job in lesser time. I hope that answers your question.
All right, Harsh, Arush, and Hemant, this was an incredible session. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. I'm sure everyone who's attended has found it really helpful. And I just wanted to remind everyone you can again join the Discord server if you have any more questions at all. These mentors are incredible, and they're going to be here to help you out. And even for future hackathons apart from Sparkathon, anytime you want, you can hit them up on their socials. And you can also contact the organizers of Sparkathon, and we'll also be happy to help you anytime. So thank you all for attending again. And Hemant, Arush, and Harsh, thank you for doing this session.
Thank you,
It was
Arsha.
our
Thank
pleasure.
you so
Thank
much.
you, Harsha.
All right. Everybody, take care. See you soon. We hope to see all of your hacks. I also wanted to say that Hemant, Arush, and Harsh will also be judging your hacks. So be sure, because they're also your judges, you can make sure you can run your idea through them and maybe get some tips on, so they can score you better. So everybody, take care. Good luck on your hacks.
All right.
Best of luck, people.
Best of luck.
Thank you,
Bye bye.
guys. Best of luck. Bye bye.
We thank you for attending the session and we hope you had fun.